Big Hammer. Theodore Roosevelt was educated at home for the lead, then entered Harvard University. Traveling throughout Europe and studying law, completed his education. The rise of the United States as a modern, globally recognized nation today is also associated with the name of Theodore Roosevelt. In fact, the foundation for this was laid during his presidency. The uniqueness of T. Roosevelt was that he clearly understood the new possibilities of the role of a world-famous state and tried to fully utilize them. In this sense, his leadership style was also modern. He used the new mass media to increase his personal fame and political power. Using the power of words, he defended his beliefs without fear of aggressive phrases, and his impressive and readiness to give preachy assessments had a more unifying effect than alienating all his enemies. Lofty images were created to convince the masses of voters of the righteousness of his goals. Theodore Roosevelt was a supporter of forces that wanted to create a situation to match the societal consequences of the economic changes brought about by industrialization and of the institutions considered American democracy. For this purpose, the state had to take on an active role of reconstruction and have more authority to combat the negative events that would arise in this process. To avoid revolutionary explosions, more social justice and perseverance in the global competitions of states was the principle of the multi-layered progressive movement led by Theodore Roosevelt. On October 27, 1858, in New York, the family in which Theodore Roosevelt was born belonged to America's upper class. Roosevelt's father, Theodore Roosevelt Sr., was a respected and wealthy wholesale glass merchant. His mother, Martha Bullock Roosevelt, was from a rich planter family in Georgia and was brought up in the spirit of ancient nobility. The Roosevelts belonged to the old aristocratic community of the city. The young Roosevelt, along with the other three children in the family, received a very honest and loving upbringing. His father, who suffered from asthma and was nearsighted, supervised Theodore's efforts to compensate for his physical weakness with sports and developed his creative abilities. Theodore's iron will to overcome his personal physical deficiencies largely determined his attitude to life for a long time. Even after becoming president, he did not give up boxing and remained a deft horseman, traveler, hunter, and tennis player. His lofty image of a strong character, courage, endurance, purity, integrity, and responsibility aligned with the moral codes of the American middle class, and Theodore Roosevelt's zealous defense of these values greatly contributed to his popularity. Family members and private tutors never restricted the child's inclination for natural sciences and his interest in literature and philosophy. During the family's travels to learn about the world, he visited Europe, Egypt, and Palestine, and gained an understanding of Western culture and other ways of life. In 1873, Roosevelt lived in Germany for several months, where he deepened his knowledge of the German language in the family of a man from Dresden. From 1876 to 1880, T. Roosevelt attended Harvard University. Many acquaintances were made during this time, first and foremost, his meeting with his closest friend and political advisor, the future Republican senator from Massachusetts, Henry Cabot Lodge. It was also during this period that he met his first wife, Alice Hathaway Lee, the daughter of a wealthy Boston banker, and married her after graduation. Lee passed away in childbirth in 1884. In 1886, T. Roosevelt married his childhood friend, Edith Kermit Carow of New York, for the second time. 5 more children were added to his daughter Alice from his first wife. Theodore Roosevelt maintained a sincere relationship with them until the end of his life. Even at Harvard, he decided to get involved in politics. Returning to New York, he first studied jurisprudence at Columbia University and continued to be engaged in history. In 1881, his first book, The Naval War of 1812, was published, and this work marked the beginning of his multifaceted historical literary career. In this book, he expressed the idea of the need to build a powerful American naval fleet. In October 1881, he successfully ran for the Republican Party in the elections for the New York State Parliament. His turn to these dark sides of politics was unusual for representatives of his class at the time, as bribery, vote buying, and electoral fraud were rampant on the New York political scene. In the House of Representatives in Albany, T. Roosevelt launched a campaign against corruption in the judiciary and police and for civil service reform. To create an effective and independent government, the principle of paying for work was necessary. When the young representative encountered the needs of tobacco industry workers in New York, he sensitively felt the explosive power of social inequalities. From then on, reforming the state government and eliminating the most blatant social injustices became the most important goals of T. Roosevelt's political career. In this, he never doubted the correctness of the American social system. In 1885, after the death of his first wife, he returned to the Badlands of the Midwest to find peace in the simple life of a cattle rancher. He glorified the easy world he had described in his work, The Winning of the West, which made him famous in the agrarian West. Drought quickly put an end to T. Roosevelt's life on the ranch, and the associated financial failure brought him back to reality. But the life of ranchers and hunters enchanted him for life. In 1886, Roosevelt returned to New York and plunged into local politics, and soon into national politics as well. After McKinley's victory in the elections, he was appointed Assistant Secretary of the Navy in 1897. This position allowed him to actively engage with the conditions of America's security policy and the creation of a naval fleet. When the Spanish-American War began in the spring of 1898, this preparation paid off, and the timely mobilized American squadron, under the command of George Dewey, defeated the Spanish fleet near Manila. This not only eliminated the threat to the Pacific coast of the United States, but also brought the Philippines under American rule. Theodore Roosevelt was a full-fledged supporter of the war with Spain, as he believed that a favorable opportunity had arisen to strengthen its dominance by ending Spain's colonial rule in the Western Hemisphere. At the same time, by occupying bases in the Philippines, he could better protect and expand American interests in East Asia. T. Roosevelt instinctively understood that the war would also present an extraordinary opportunity for himself. Overflowing with a desire for action, T. Roosevelt went into military service and led the Rough Riders battalion he had formed into battle in Cuba. The unusual composition of the volunteer corps attracted everyone's attention, and on top of that, its ambitious commander cleverly exploited the publicity of the event. By the end of the war, T. Roosevelt had become a war hero and one of the most famous people in the United States. At the end of 1898, he was elected governor of New York, but he did not stay in this position for long, because his popularity among the nation made him the most suitable candidate for the vice presidency from the Republicans in the 1900 elections. After winning the elections, T. Roosevelt took the oath as the new Vice President of the United States. In a brief address to the Senate, which he now presided over, he expressed his belief in the greatness of the United States and its future global political responsibility. "We now belong to a new nation of such immense power," he said, expressing America's modern role and its vision for the future. But its political power is only a prelude to the power that will come later. "We are the leading country on the continent, in the hemisphere. We see the life of an even greater world across two great oceans, in the East and in the West, in which we must increasingly participate, whether we want to or not." On September 14, 1901, McKinley was assassinated in Buffalo, and T. Roosevelt took the oath as the 26th President of the United States on the same day at the age of 42. Since the time of John Quincy Adams, there had not been an American president in the White House who had so perfectly mastered the art of politics and at the same time had such deep knowledge of all global political issues and had such close ties with leading European politicians. The new president was determined to fully use all the possibilities of this position to realize his political visions. Theodore Roosevelt fully enjoyed power, popularity, and all the opportunities this position gave him. He moved into the White House with his large family. He ordered the building to be renovated with its original architectural simple brilliance restored, and on the other hand, he also gave instructions to build a new annex to expand the president's activities and create territorial opportunities. After that, the White House was open to all segments of the population and the whole world, and Washington began to adapt to the role of the capital of a powerful state. His unprotected situation within his own party was his weakness at first. T. Roosevelt's most dangerous rival, Mark Hanna, was supported by the financial ruling group in New York, which was a target of T.